police personnel not to provide security for this event. This is the first time in my life, and perhaps the first time in recorded history, that a police institution is calling on policemen not to provide security. Now, if the police is not providing security, what is the police there for? Indeed, what happened yesterday is a continuation of what happened on the 31st of January 2019. It's a continuation. By announcing that the police was not going to provide security for this event, what was the police service seeking to do? Was the police service not sending a signal to hoodlums that they can come here and do as they please and that the police would not act? Was that not what the police was doing yesterday? In any case, whether we like it or not, President John Dramani Mahama is a president of this country, has been a president of this country before. And he's entitled to the security which is offered former President Kufuor, is entitled to the same security which is offered former President Jerry John Rawlings and every other person. The police must provide reasons why former President John Dramani Mahama cannot be provided with security when he attends public events like this one. Very bad. I am totally shocked and disgusted by the conduct of our police service. And indeed, I'd like to use this opportunity to send a very clear and loud warning to our security services. Our security services should not forget that the people of this country defeat British colonialism at the time when Britain was set to rule the waves. We defeated British colonialism. The people in the security services should not forget what happened in Haiti when under Papa Doc and Baby Doc, they established Tonton Marcus to terrorize the people. They still drove them out of power. The security services should not forget the fact that the United States of America with all its might was driven out of Vietnam with its tails behind his knees. So, no security force can stand against the will and determination of the people. And that ultimately, the people of this country will take their destiny into their own hands, and they will defeat all the negative forces which intend to cause chaos and mayhem in our country. And I can assure them of that. All Ghanaians to do every and anything possible to protect the Constitution and to protect national sovereignty. So those who believe in prayers, let them pray. Those who belong to the Akuledi Shrine, let them do what the Akuledi Shrine wants them to do. Those who belong to Nakaba, let them do what Nakaba will do. And those who feel strong enough to confront the strength of the useless and wicked, let them gather their strength and face that. That is a duty that the 1992 Constitution imposes on us. absolutely clear about what we ought to do when national sovereignty is threatened. In any case, who is loyal to MPP and who is loyal to NPP? Stray bullets, they can hit anybody and everybody. That this event is not worthy of celebration. It's not even worthy. Because the hoodlums came in state vehicles. They came disguised as national security personnel, and they were supported by ministers who justified their actions. It's never happened. And this is extraordinary. My worry is that up to today, these hoodlums are still embedded in the national security apparatus. The people who are responsible for your injuries, the people who tried to kill the 27 of you here assembled, are still being paid by your taxes. That is the worry. Those people are still wearing uniforms procured by the Ghanaian taxpayer. Those Let's sanitize the security services and let's throw out the vigilantes from the security services. There's a duty we have to ourselves and to the nation. We need to do that as quickly as possible. I want again to emphasize that the enactment of laws does not automatically resolve problems. The law of vigilantism is absolutely useless and meaningless to the extent that it has not ended vigilantism and it has not brought to book those responsible for those acts last year. Only a couple of days ago, the member of parliament for Durbar was going to the inauguration of a hospital. He was accosted by vigilante groups. They heckled him, and if good counsel had not prevailed, God knows what would have happened to Nielante van der Poel. That's a manifestation of vigilantism. It is still happening in spite of the law, and we ought to take measures to dismantle all the vestiges of vigilantism and ensure that at the end of the day, the people of Ghana will choose their own leaders. And if at the end of the day, we go through everything that is happening today, in spite of everything that is happening today, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo should repeat for more years. But if that is the will of the people expressed in true, genuine, transparent elections, we have no option than to accept it. But if at the end of the day, somebody is declared president And we all know that he came through Kukululu and Wagadre and all of that. Then we will exercise our right to resist the president's rule until the people's will is accomplished. And there can be no compromise on this one. No compromise on this one. And indeed, all of us, and I mean all of us, irrespective of our political party affiliation and so on, ought to join this campaign to ensure that the true will of the people is expressed and accepted, and that we work with the true will of our people. One of the major things threatening our democracy today and casting a shadow of doubt about the outcome of the 2020 elections is the attempt to fabricate a new voters register. And some of the arguments that have been made simply defy common sense. People make arguments, you look them in the face, and you begin to wonder where common sense has fled to. We are told that the Ghanaian voters register has dead people on it, and therefore it is dead people on the register. So that's a bad argument. It's an argument which should not be made. We are being told again that we need to compile a new voters register because the machines are faulty. If the machines are faulty, why wipe the whole data? Why don't you simply change the machines? And then they say that, oh, some people, because of the work they do, their fingerprints have been deformed. So we should add facial recognition. As if only fingers can get deformed. What about faces would get deformed? This whole argument is so nonsensical, it doesn't make sense. And unfortunately for us, we have an electoral commission and commissioners who have no shame wearing their biases as badges of honor. Which will ensure that the outcome of the elections would be credible. But I must sound two notes of caution. What is happening in our country demands total mobilization. Complete and total mobilization of everybody and anybody. This hanky-panky way of organizing resistance, of mobilizing and demobilizing, is not in anybody's interest. So those who want to mobilize, let it be mobilization all the way, no demobilization anymore. Now this mobilization and demobilization sends wrong signals. So that is the first caution that I like to deliver. Now the second caution that I like to deliver is that all of these processes which have begun, demonstrations, press conferences and so on, somebody must begin to determine the end game. What is the end game? What are the different options open to us? If this does not happen, what should happen? If that happens, what should happen? There has to be a plan. You don't start something until you have a plan for the end. And I don't see that plan for the end. That is the weakness of the mobilization that is taking place. So let us begin to mobilize, let us begin to organize. But the people of Ghana will be expressed. And no force on earth can change that true will of the people of this country. And I'm confident because we are all learning our lessons. All of us are learning our lessons. And one big lesson that all of us have learned if you don't like what I'm saying, I apologize, but I can't help it. And they were so full of hatred for the flag bearer of the party. So they subverted the flag bearer of the party. Today, January 2020, the flag bearer is sitting here. He came here with a motorcade provided by the state. The constitution guarantees his salary until he will die. He will never suffer if he pulls out of politics. Those people, those big men who finance the opposition, comrades, those big men, those party giants and so on, what is happening to their businesses today? Are they not the people who are today playing hide and seek with the police? So if you don't learn from this experience, it's up to you. And I've heard some people, you've all heard them, and they come to you and say, look, I am the most qualified person to become the vice presidential candidate of the party. If they don't give it to me, they will win. Nonsense. Who are you? Comrades and friends, it's about our people's access to water. It's about providing better education for our people. It's about building infrastructure, improving national infrastructure. It's about potable water for our people and so on. That is what politics should be about. All these useless, ambitious people who are striding the path and making things difficult, they should get out of our way and let the people move forward.
that. He is a lawyer and a lecturer at the University of Ghana, WUOGON, and he has also joined us this morning. Thank you very much for your time, Doc.
Your Excellency, the President of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, the Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, the leadership of the National Democratic Congress, reading law, philosophy, and English. One day in our philosophy class, essay on violence by private actors without state sanction in unleashing violence. I was writing about legal violence. Legal violence, the concept of legal violence appears to be a paradox. Our professor wanted us to write an essay on violence by private actors without state sanction in unleashing violence. I was writing about legal violence. Legal violence, the concept of legal violence appears to be a paradox, an oxymoron, because something legal is good and something violence is bad. So how can you have legal violence? Now, some of the things happening in our country is really a form of legal violence, and I need to explain. And the events of January 31st, 2019 is a classic example of what we mean by legal violence. Legal violence is, let me perhaps use a word in Akan. Those of you who understand Tree will appreciate this well. You know, you often hear of the word abro, right? Abro. Now, legal violence, the person is using the law in a very mischievous manner. The person is using the law in a way that is not meant to promote our national objectives of ensuring the development and promotion of the welfare of our people. But that law, the exercise of that power is being used in a way that is meant to suppress us and retard us in our national development and all. Now, as I cast my mind back to the events of 31st January 2019, it is sad to say that it is the most shameful incident in our political history since the inception of the Fourth Republic. There is no other event since the Fourth Republic, no other political event since the Republic that can measure in scale, magnitude, the level of violence and lawlessness that we saw on that sad day. As a lawyer, somebody who has been trained in the law, and as a law lecturer, just like everybody here, I love our Constitution, and I love our nation. And I think the surest way to ensure that we Ghanaians live in peace is when we uphold our constitutional duty that we must defend this Constitution. You find this in Article 3 of our Constitution. We must defend and promote the Constitution and the law. And the way that we do it is for us to talk about the event that happened on January 31st, 2020. 2019. I'm going to briefly talk about the work of the Commission, its legal significance, not only for this is the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic that we have open, reckless and shameful display of state-sponsored political violence. We never had this openly in the Fourth Republic. But this is a case where people armed with weapons funded a mechanism for dealing with these matters. Following public outrage and pressure, our president for all of us, set up a commission of inquiry composed of very eminent persons. My own professor, Professor Mensa Bonsu, Justice Emil Short, and former IGP Patrick Echampo. Persons who have a reputation to keep. There is this story about commissions of inquiry. You know, there is this joke that commissions of inquiry are the tools for political chicanery. What this means is that when politicians do something that they want to cover up, then they will set up a commission of inquiry, and sometimes the report of listening to first account testimonies of what happened came out with its findings, and I'll go through some of these findings. For the deployment of the the commission established that falls the intelligence. There was nothing that triggered. They begin to wonder. So how could any sophisticated deployment of the SWAT team to the residence of our NDC parliamentary candidate then was, and let me use the exact expression used by the commission, was basis. There was nothing to it. And you begin to wonder, so how could any sophisticated, up-to-the-game national security apparatus be relying essentially on a rumor, intelligence that doesn't have any basis? Perhaps maybe it's time that in our country we do what is done in other countries. You see, when the intelligence agencies want to act, there will be a special court which will look at the evidence and say, oh no, this one I don't think there's any merit. Perhaps you reach a time to avoid this kind of baseless, intelligence reports being used as a basis for deploying SWAT teams and causing atrocities. Perhaps it's time. Here also, instead of a national security apparatus protecting us, there are came to disrupt the election. This is a finding of the commission. Now, what is important about the finding of the commission is that these are the facts that we rely upon now, no other facts, because they have gone through the evidence. And they have established these facts. And one of designed to instill fear in the voting public and the crowd gathered in front of the NDC candidate's house. Now, these are serious allegations. In fact, even if in some other country, I should be resigning by now. Because voting or election is the very essence of a functioning democracy. So when you have state security apparatus acting in a manner in the voting public and the crowd gathered in front of the NDC candidate's house. Another most shocking revelation or finding is that haven't seen any visible attempts to implement the recommendations of
but it's a good excuse, but I love to use, baby. I know what to do, baby. I will.
How well do you know your partner? How hard can you go to defend your love? This Valentine, we are playing a game for love. Join us on the 14th of February 2020 live on Volta 1 TV for Long Vava show, 7 p.m. sharp. Long Vava, love is always the first.
You, me, 'cause in your company I feel happy.
This edifice was put up by the Danish Norwegians from 1700. They were buying slaves.
Noba nkushi chacha amugang tolo te poda maho. Our forefathers actually stayed in a place for a very long period of time. Gadu mwade nyejigana.
No, the same way they want.
true humility, make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist your precious rule with all our will in mind forevermore. Oh Lord, and help us to resist your precious rule with all our will in mind forevermore. Ha! The Lord is faithful to this country. The Lord is faithful to this land. Freedom and justice. In 1957 we won our independence. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and all the others who helped for this faith. Oh Lord, hear this. Say God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Oh, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Oh Lord, fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, yeah, and help us to resist your precious rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Oh Lord mercy, and help us to resist your precious rule with all our will and mind forevermore. We say,
Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensenda Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensenda Jose, Aman Fubra Natural.
Freedom and justice on this land. Amano Serio, freedom in this land, freedom in this land, freedom in the air, peace in the air, peace on this land, peace on this land. Amano Serio, oh Lord of mercy. Thank you for all the presidents who brought Ghana to this far. God bless you all. God says it's my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face. I'll give you them.
Anya 5 aka 2020 year you share what we modern kono fo ba wie efe ye hejolemu e ka fe ye tu ke krantena ajake aketu efe democracy tu entomon wie aka bio tin ke jatai do me shaka gbegbe mo eni no mbeje kem ba academic yen pe ko afi na emi wo wa yan afi koda afi ade ba ni na wo afi beleka bi wo hia na wo ka do fa wo to ni ahye no afi beleka ka to ache Ghana president ache John Dramani Mahama.
We thank God for the freedom of this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Freedom and justice on this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Oh Lord, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Ha! The Lord is faithful to this country. The Lord is faithful to this land. Freedom and justice. In 1957 we won our independence. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and all the others who helped for this faith. Oh Lord, hear this. Say God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Oh, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Oh Lord, fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, yeah, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Oh Lord mercy, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. We say,
Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural.
freedom and justice on this land. Freedom in this land, freedom in this land, freedom in the air, peace in the air, peace on this land, peace on this land. Oh Lord of mercy. Thank you for all the presidents who brought Ghana to this far. God bless you all. God says if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face, I'll hear you then.
Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural.
Thank God for the freedom of this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Freedom and justice on this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Oh Lord, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and mind and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might forevermore. Oh Lord mercy, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might forevermore. We say,
Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, Amano Serio, Amano Serio, Ensem da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural.
freedom and justice on this land. Amano Serio, freedom in this land, freedom in this land, freedom in the air, peace in the air, peace on this land, peace on this land. Amano Serio, oh Lord of mercy. Thank you for all the presidents who brought Ghana to this far. God bless you all. God says if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face, I'll hear the land.
Amano Serio, Amano Serio, yes, I'm da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, yes, I'm da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, yes, I'm da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural, yes, I'm da Jose, Aman Fubra Natural.
We thank God for the freedom of this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Freedom and justice on this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might forevermore. Oh Lord, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might forevermore. Ha! The Lord is faithful to this country. The Lord is faithful to this land. Freedom and justice. In 1957 we won our independence. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and all the others who helped for this faith. Oh Lord, hear this. Say God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Oh, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and of right. Oh Lord, fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, yeah, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might forevermore. Oh Lord mercy, and help us to resist the oppressor's rule with all our will and might.
Trusted our uniform. A year ago, just close to this very ground we're standing on today, Ghanaians were violently attacked and some injured, ironically in the course of an exercise that was expected to cement our growth and maturity as a democracy. On that fateful day, a day that has tragically and disgracefully gone down in our history as a Black Thursday, citizens was over until this fateful day, 31st January 2019, when party thugs dressed in security outfits and their collaborators in police uniform brought back that nightmarish experience during the 31st of January 2019 by-election of AYAWASO West WUOGON. Indeed, the image of that day are surreal, and one would imagine that those images were from Iraq or Syria, Libya or Somalia. But no, these are images from Ghana that has been touted as the model of democracy in Africa. My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, while we are all witnesses to that sordid history, we must remember that it is those who have been physically maimed and injured and others who have been mentally scarred from the experience with their families and loved ones who bear and relive the memory and pain of that event each and every day of their life. The cowardly act of barbarism perpetrated by government elements against citizens whose only interest was to choose a member of parliament for themselves could have been worse. And as he just said, it was just the intervention of God. If you looked at the number of bullets that were discharged on that day, to think that not a single person died, it is only God's intervention that prevented it. Thankfully, the National Democratic Congress, as it had always done throughout our democratic journey since 1992, and on that day once again showed leadership and put peace and security of the country first by deciding to withdraw from that by-election. Indeed, later events would prove that the Dastardly Act was an orchestrated plan that was intended to be replicated at other voting centers to intimidate and suppress our support base and to prevent them from coming out to vote. And indeed, we've been exonerated. 1 year after that disgraceful chapter in our nation's life, there are questions that remain unanswered.
Recommendations of the Milshot Committee, which among others included the prosecution of identified offenders and the disbanding of the illegal parallel SWAT unit. My brothers and sisters, anyone who professes to love Ghana, the only country that we all have, should be concerned especially with the 2020 election just about 10 months away. Let me make this very clear. We have reached a critical point, and Ghana's future as a peaceful, united states country is at stake. A leading member of the MPP declared publicly that A leading member of the MPP declared publicly that AYAWASO West WUOGON was just a dress rehearsal and that the real event will be on 7th January 2020. Since he made this statement, I haven't heard President, his Vice President, the MPP party leadership dissociate themselves from this statement that was made by the leading member. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Ghana, under the 1992 Constitution, have a constitutional mandate to defend the Constitution and our national sovereignty. And we will call on the people of Ghana to prevent any subversion of the will of the people and resist any attempt to undermine the Constitution of Ghana on 7th December 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Ghana, under the 1992 Constitution, have a constitutional mandate to defend the Constitution and our national sovereignty. And we will call on the people of Ghana to prevent any subversion of the will of the people and resist any attempt to undermine the Constitution of Ghana on 7th December 2020. But let me serve notice that all those contemplating bloodshed and their promoters, that if they shed any blood on 7th December 2020, if by the grace of God I become the president of this republic, let me repeat that. Let me serve notice that all those contemplating bloodshed and their promoters, that if they shed any Ghanaian blood on 7th 2020, if by the grace of God I become president on 7th January 2021, they will be held individually to account for their actions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not keep quiet because our SHS children are going to be involved in that electoral process. There will be pregnant women and the aged present to vote, and that is why we cannot remain silent. There will be Christians, there will be Muslims, there will be traditionalists, and people of all religious faith right there, and that is why we must stop them now. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be media personnel either voting or performing their duties on the day that these promised attacks have been announced, and that is why we must resist the rule of the oppressors. No Ghanaian can sit on the fence claiming neutrality. Every single individual across our nation must stand up and choose one of two sides. You either choose the side of Ghana or you choose the side of impunity and violence. We call on the National Peace Council not to allow itself to be railroaded in serving as a cosmetic veneer to make government look as though it is serious about tackling the matter of vigilantism. Ghanaians are looking up to them for impartial, decisive direction, and they cannot afford to disappoint us. They must be quick to quickly condemn the war drums that government functionaries are sounding with the apparent approval of government ahead of the 2020 election. The Peace Council has a sacred duty to advocate that the criminal elements that have infiltrated the national security setup are removed so that the confidence of the people can be restored in our security and Ghanaians can go to the polls to elect the next president in an atmosphere that promotes free, fair, and transparent elections. Finally, this morning, I read a worrying police notice, and for the benefit of you all, I intend to read the whole notice. And he said this notice, which was a wireless message, was sent to all divisional, district, and unit commanders in Greater Accra region. And the title was Invitation to the one-year commemorative Durbar of the AYAWASO West WUOGON by-election, violence, and provision of security. And it says, information from the regional command indicates that the NDC and others intend to celebrate the one-year AYAWASO West WUOGON by-election. Now this is the interesting part. It says, all police, direction is given that no police officer should be detailed to provide security for that event. Is that not strange? No police officer should be detailed to provide security for the event. But indeed, the next sentence is the most bizarre sentence. And it says that, indeed, all police officers within the region, that is Greater Accra, must dissociate themselves from the event. Listen to the word, dissociate themselves from the event. If people are demonstrating or manifesting because of a certain reason, and the police provide security, does it mean that the police are associating with the reason for which the demonstration is taking place? And so when he says they must dissociate themselves from the event or face severe sanction, which professional police officer will send a message like this? It shows the bastardization of the institutions of state that have taken place under this NPP administration. Of course, NDC is coming. We will reform the police service. And so, I read this notice and I felt sad. And I believe that our police officers must remember that their dedication and their duty is to the state and the constitution, and in everything that they do they must remain neutral and non-partisan. It is a very sorry date for the police service to issue a command like this, asking all security personnel, one, not to provide security for the event, and then two, to dissociate themselves from the event. It means they shouldn't do anything to associate themselves with the events of that fortunate day in this constituency. I feel very sad, but I promise that we will take action when we come into office to restore the confidence of the people of Ghana in their police service. The motto of the service is service with integrity. We will work to restore the integrity of the Ghana police service. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I wish to state clearly that the assault visited on innocent citizens at the hands of their own government that was constitutionally bound to protect them will not pass in vain, and that at the appropriate time the recommendations that were made to offer restitution and compensation to the victims will be acted upon, inshallah, under an NDC administration. We will do everything in our power to ensure that they not only receive justice, but receive adequate and fair compensation for the trauma that they have gone through, even if not immediately, inshallah, very soon. I thank you, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, as always, for the thought-provoking, straight to the point, and inspiring speech. I am inspired. I'm sure that you are too. Let's welcome the organizer for the Greater Accra region. He has some announcements for us. Then we can take the vote of thanks and our Muslim.
Choboy. Are we ready? Are we ready to resist the oppressor's rule? Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for the opportunity. And as you are all aware, we've been told and we've been informed that we should resist, and we shall resist a compilation of a new register. Are you ready for that resistance? Are you ready for that resistance? I happily announce to you at this moment that come Tuesday, Ebnada Ebe, yes, Ubia, Fawa Hondishim, Fawunium Shim, as I say, Nyaya Yano, a good one, Nanti and a pet, Mentina Ufie, Mentina platform so, Mentina WhatsApp so, and Kasa Ubiko Yene, Yenina Yam Bodompim. Yede shia o Kaukudi Park. Yede nanti enu bet tuaso woho ako Electoral Commission headquarters. Now we enye just demonstration. It is occupy, invade, anything to resist an action that is unreasonable to the people of this country. It is Islamu say mema obi fa car as an obefa. Usu fa ukitu ashe ubotom. Nefa oka nebra say yentimi anya nipa opepepepe amfa anya oye kyerɛ ya na nado ana ye man panyini jemensa eduane ebobɔ na mo de ahye omo asom no yentimi ntumfu omo asom enti enuanu ma dofo ayehye mu aha ye di nkan eboyi ma obia ye nyina ye sori waka na ebnada anopa ne osia ye nyina yehia na ntimi nye oyekyerɛ emagana fo nyine wo sɛ yɛni abri na yɛ krado so sɛ yɛ jutumi aboa amagana enya ne ntoma pamfra ka no manyaba.
Thank you very much. On the 4th of February 2020, I must say. Please don't forget that when you wake up in the morning as early as 6 a.m., we are all converging at the Kaokudi Park. We'll move from there straight to the Electoral Commission. We are picketing at the Electoral Commission. We are going to stay there as long as our voices will be heard. Don't miss out on this, and I know that all of you will be here. Please, those of you who are not here and listening and watching us from home, please make sure that you make an appearance there. Thank you very much. On that note, let's welcome now Odaka Lamti Adi. She will give us a vote of thanks, and then we'll take the Muslim prayer.
His Excellency, former President John Dramani Mahama, the flag bearer of the NDC, esteemed party executives, Nime, honorable members of parliament here in present, former appointees seated, colleague Akatamansonians, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I deem it an honor to deliver the vote of thanks and closing compliments for this historic and mammoth occasion. This occasion is particularly dear to my heart because last year I was at the former parliamentary candidate's house. I witnessed the bloodshed, I saw the bullets and the chaos that occurred. Indeed, to Today's program has affirmed that the NDC has an unflinching and long-standing desire to promote peace and effective democracy in our beloved country, Ghana. On this note, I want to thank first and foremost the Almighty God for giving us not just life,
literally opening fire at people. And I stopped to ask them, why are you shooting the people? That's all I asked. Why are you shooting the people? And on that particular moment, they just started on me. Every single one of them started on me. And I remember
we thank God for the freedom of this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Freedom and justice on this land. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever their cause of freedom and the pride. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist your oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Oh Lord, and help us to resist your oppressor's rule with all our will and mind forevermore. Ha! The Lord is faithful to this country. The Lord is faithful to this land. Freedom and justice. In 1957 we won our independence. Thank you, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
State-sponsored terrorism. That is nothing else when a whole bunch of people armed with weapons, firearms, discharge bullets at unarmed people. That is internationally known as state-sponsored terrorism. And for under no circumstances should we allow Lucifer to do that to ordinary people. I'm not one person who worships much, but that day God spoke. God reacted, because to think they opened rapid fire at a whole bunch of people and nobody died. God spoke, and never again. All you guys that like to pray before you do everything, good luck to you. But my personal experience has taught me to be ready every time. Under no circumstances would I walk in a place blindfolded again. Never. Good luck to the whole lot of you, and good luck, and long live Ghana. Thank you very much.
sure you saw him in the video, the one in the white shirt who was on the ground. And indeed, never again should we experience this so far as our country, Ghana, is concerned. He has been sitting quietly and listening. I'm sure that he remembers that day vividly. He was on his tour to become the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress on that day, and I'm sure that he was briefed appropriately about this shameful development that occurred exactly a year today. Without much ado, let me welcome the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Our national chairman and members of the Functional Executive Committee, our comrades and friends, brothers and sisters, Nime, Name, everybody gathered here, and those watching us or listening to us from other locations. I want to thank all of you for taking a moment to commemorate this day that will go down in our history as Ghana's Day of Infamy. Normally a gathering within the month of January of the year would have expected to be a festive, celebratory. Unfortunately, our gathering today, which has brought us together and brought together not only members and friends of the NDC, but Ghanaians of all walks of life, is anything but celebratory. It is a memory of anguish and betrayal of trust by those in whom we entrusted our. A year ago, just close to this very ground we're standing on today, Ghanaians were violently attacked and some injured, ironically in the course of an exercise that was expected to cement our growth and maturity as a democracy. On that fateful day, a day that has tragically and disgracefully gone down in our history as a Black Thursday, our nation, like something out of a horror movie, witnessed an assault of citizens, a severe assault the likes of which has never occurred before, except during the era of brutal military dictatorships. We are all taught that those terrifying days when men in uniform, acting with impunity, visited unimaginable atrocities against innocent citizens was over. Until this fateful day, 31st January 2019, when party thugs dressed in security outfits and their collaborators in police uniform brought back that nightmarish experience during the 31st of January 2019 by-election of AYAWASO West WUOGON. Indeed, the image of that day are surreal, and one would imagine that those images were from Iraq or Syria, Libya or Somalia. But no, these are images from Ghana that has been touted as the model of democracy in Africa. My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, while we are all witnesses to that sordid history, we must remember that it is those who have been physically maimed and injured and others who have been mentally scarred from the experience with their families and loved ones who bear and relive the memory and pain of that event each and every day of their life. the cowardly act of barbarism perpetrated by government elements against citizens whose only interest was to choose a member of parliament for themselves could have been worse. And as he just said, it was just the intervention of God. If you looked at the number of bullets that were discharged on that day, to think that not a single person died, it is only God's intervention that prevented it. Thankfully, the National Democratic Congress, as it had always done throughout our democratic journey since 1992, and on that day once again showed leadership and put peace and security of the country first by deciding to withdraw from that by-election. Indeed, later events would prove that the Dastardly Act was an orchestrated plan that was intended to be replicated at other voting centers to intimidate and suppress our support base and to prevent them from coming out to vote. And indeed, we've been exonerated. 1 year after that disgraceful chapter in our nation's life, there are questions that remain unanswered. Why must any responsible government compromise the security of the nation by infiltrating the security setup with militia members forming the core of a specialized SWAT unit that the IGP under whose command they should fall confessed that he knew nothing about? If the current constitution of our national security remains the same, in a case where we need protection, do we seek refuge in the police who were unaware of these rogue elements using police vehicles and who stood passively by as those elements rained terror on innocent citizens? Why is the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who should be defending the law, make mockery of it and thereby set a dangerous precedent by accepting that assault is permitted if one believes that one has been provoked? Why did the president pretend he cared about vigilantism and wanted to tackle it, and yet refused to abide by the key recommendations of the Emil Short Committee, which among others included the prosecution of identified offenders and the disbanding of the illegal parallel SWAT unit? My brothers and sisters, anyone who professes to love Ghana, the only country that we all have, should be concerned about the president's actions, which has almost certainly emboldened these criminal elements within his government and party to attempt more attacks against political opponents, especially with the 2020 election just about 10 months away. Let me make this very clear. We have reached a critical point, and Ghana's future as a peaceful, united state country is at stake. A leading member of the MPP declared publicly that AYAWASO West WUOGON was just a dress rehearsal, and that the real event will be on 7th January 2020. Since he made this statement, I haven't heard the president, his vice president, the MPP party leadership dissociate themselves from this statement that was made by the leading member. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Ghana, under the 1992 Constitution, have a constitutional mandate to defend the Constitution and our national sovereignty. And we will call on the people of Ghana to prevent any subversion of the will of the people and resist any attempt to undermine the Constitution of Ghana on 7th December 2020. But let me serve notice that all those contemplating bloodshed and their promoters, that if they shed any blood on 7th December 2020, if by the grace of God I become the president of this republic, let me repeat that. Let me serve notice that all those contemplating bloodshed and their promoters, that if they shed any Ghanaian blood on 7th 2020, if by the grace of God I become president on 7th January 2021, they will be held individually to account for their actions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not keep quiet, because our SHS children are going to be involved in that electoral process. There will be pregnant women and the aged present to vote, and that is why we cannot remain silent. There will be Christians, there will be Muslims, there will be traditionalists, and people of all religious faith right there, and that is why we must stop them now. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be media personnel either voting or performing their duties on the day that these promised attacks have been announced, and that is why we must resist the rule of the oppressors. No Ghanaian can sit on the fence claiming neutrality. Every single individual across our nation must stand up and choose one of two sides. You either choose the side of Ghana or you choose the side of impunity and violence. We call on the National Peace Council not to allow itself to be railroaded in serving as a cosmetic veneer to make government look as though it is serious about tackling the matter of vigilantism. Ghanaians are looking up to them for impartial, decisive direction, and they cannot afford to disappoint us. They must be quick to quickly condemn the war drums that government functionaries are sounding with the apparent approval of government ahead of the 2020 election. The Peace Council has a sacred duty to advocate that the criminal elements that have infiltrated the national security setup are removed so that the confidence of the people can be restored in our security, and Ghanaians can go to the polls to elect the next president in an atmosphere that promotes free, fair, and transparent elections. Finally, this morning, I read a worrying police notice, and for the benefit of you all, I intend to read the whole notice. And it said, this notice, which was a wireless message, was sent to all divisional, district, and unit commanders in Greater Accra region. The title was Invitation to the 1-Year Commemorative Durbar of the AYAWASO West WUOGON by-election, violence, and provision of security. And it says, information from the regional command indicates that the NDC and others intend to celebrate the 1-year AYAWASO West WUOGON by-election. Now this is the interesting part. It says, all police, direction is given that no police officer should be detailed to provide security for that event. Is that not strange? no police officer should be detailed to provide security for the event. But indeed, the next sentence is the most bizarre sentence. And it says that, indeed, all police officers within the region, that is Greater Accra, must dissociate themselves from the event. Listen to the word, dissociate themselves from the event. If people are demonstrating or manifesting because of a certain reason, and the police provide security, does it mean that the police are associating with the reason for which the demonstration is taking place? And so when he says they must dissociate themselves from the event or face severe sanction, which professional police officer will send a message like this? It shows the bastardization of the institutions of state that have taken place under this NPP administration. Of course, NDC is coming. We will reform the police service. And so, I read this notice and I felt sad. And I believe that our police officers must remember that their dedication and their duty is to the state and the Constitution. And in everything that they do, they must remain neutral and non-partisan. It is a very sorry date for the police service to issue a command like this, asking all security personnel, one, not to provide security for the event, and then two, to dissociate themselves from the event. It means they shouldn't do anything to associate themselves with the events of that fortunate day in this constituency. I feel very sad, but I promise that we will take action when we come into office to restore the confidence of the people of Ghana in their police service. The motto of the service is service with integrity. We will work to restore the integrity of the Ghana police service. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I wish to state clearly that the assault visited